Good morning. My name is Aubrey Martin from Martin Family Real Estate Group, and welcome back to our educational series where we get the opportunity to interview professionals in the real estate world. Today, I'm very happy to welcome to our interview Shawn Varwig from Judson Roy Home. He is actually my go-to stager for when I have vacant homes, and really happy to have you with us today. It's definitely an area of real estate that is not my forte. I am not creative in any way, and I'm lucky enough to know creative types like Shawn. So Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm excited to chat with you about it.
It's fantastic. I know that this is actually one of the highly anticipated interviews just by chatting with friends. Everybody seems to be really interested in staging. I read a statistic recently from the National Association of Realtors that homes that are staged sell on average 30% faster than homes that don't, and can go for up to 20% more than homes that are not staged. So I know it's a big business. One of the things I definitely want to cover with you is, in a market that's super busy, what is the importance of having a staged home if it's going to sell anyway? So would love for you to actually start there, and then let's talk a little bit about sort of how you got started and see what happens.
Yeah, well, that statistic, it's quite a range. There's 30%. I've recently heard up to 73% faster than homes that are unstaged, and especially in a market that is so hot right now. You get a lot of people saying, "Why would I stage my home if my home's going to sell anyways?" And I always tell people, "Do you want 2 offers or 20 offers? Do you want to have to go through a home inspection, or do you want a cash offer with no inspections?" Those are the types of things that we're seeing right now in a hot market of homes that are staged. 94% of people look online before they ever even contact their realtor to go look at a home. And of that 94%, 85% say that the pictures that they see is what makes them decide whether or not they actually want to go view that home. And so when you have 85% of people looking at the pictures to make their decision on whether they want to come or not, you want your pictures to stand out. You want your home to stand out amongst all of the other homes. And so that's why it's still important, even in a hot real estate market, to stage your home. You want every single person that looks at the pictures to visit your home, because obviously the more visits to the home, the more chances for offers.
And so talk to me a little bit about vacant homes and those photos as opposed to stage homes. What do you think is the appeal to folks?
Yeah, so I always tell people, if you were shopping at the mall and you walk up to a storefront and it looks completely empty, are you going to walk inside? Probably not. It looks closed. And the same thing when you look at photos online. The home, you don't necessarily know what room is what. And the second you start asking questions of what would I do with that, you're talking yourself out of buying the home instead of talking yourself into it. And so you want people to, especially a vacant home, to look at photos and understand, I can see my family around that window, this summer, watching kids playing in the pool. I can see the Christmas tree in front of that window. I can see, family dinners around that dining room table. When people start to picture themselves living there, they've talked themselves into buying the home instead of out of it. And so that's why it's mostly important, especially in a vacant home, to have it staged so that those 85% of people that are looking online to determine what homes they're going to go and look at come and view your home.
Well, and also there are people that don't have a lot of imagination, right?
True,
I
very true.
find myself among those people. So when you have furniture placed, when you have art placed, you can much more sort of envision where things would go so that you don't have to figure out the shape of things, right?
Yeah, and one of the other funny things is when you walk into a room, and this is for photos and when you see it in person, when you walk into a room, if it's a small room, you can tell that it's small. When you walk into a small room that has furniture in it, it actually looks bigger. And so it's almost a mind trick with the eyes, is that you want the furniture to be laid out in a way that helps people realize what they can do with the room.
So one of the things that that's interesting to me is to kind of share with people how you got started in this business, and where it started and where it's grown to.
Sure. And I always like to tell people when they ask me that question, how did you get into to home staging? Because if you look at me, I'm not the typical home stager. Um, but I always tell people I got into it purely by accident and I fell in love with it. Um, During the 2008, 2009, you know, uh, crash, market crash and all of that, I was selling furniture and I was looking for work, and I would go from job to job because everywhere I would work was going out of business. And you might remember, the banners on furniture stores, everywhere you went, store closing, 80% off. And, it was a hard time to be in the furniture market and to be selling furniture. And so I just happened to get a job with another home stager. I knew her, I used to sell furniture to her. She did a wonderful job. And I went to her and I said, do you need any help at all? I'll take out your trash. I'll load your trailer. I had a newborn baby daughter at that point, and I needed work. And so I started working part-time at Starbucks and part-time for her. And I just fell in love with home staging. So that's kind of how I got started, purely by just, the market being the way it was in 2008, 2009. And home staging was incredibly popular back then as well, because with so many homes on the market, you had to do something to make your home stand out amongst all of the homes. So that's how I got started, purely by accident, just in job changes. And, in 2016, I recognized that it was time to move on from the company I was working at. I worked with her for 5 years. She taught me everything I know about the industry. Wonderful person, but it was just time to move on. You can only give so much before you start taking. And I didn't want to be the person who took away and wasn't able to give 100%. And so my next step was just naturally starting my own company. So I started in 2016 and have been doing it, now that's, just over 5 years ago.
And so talk to me about, and I think everybody's always really curious about this, like your warehouse,
Yeah.
how do you choose items? Or do you have more small items? Do you have more furniture items? How do you choose styles? Like all of the questions.
Sure. Yeah. I have an amazing team. And that is one thing that I learned from the very beginning, is that you are only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And so I have probably the most amazing staging team. And that's my biased opinion, of course, because I've hired them and taught them what they need to know. But
They're pretty awesome.
They are awesome.
They're
Yeah. Yeah. So they do most of the picking at this point. We have a warehouse. We're located in Wilsonville. We have a, just over 2,000 square foot warehouse filled, 20-foot ceiling. So full of accessories and artwork and furniture. And so kind of the process, the way it starts is I visit a home, take a bunch of pictures, and I send them to the designers on staff and say, here's the home we're doing. Here's kind of the style of it, and oftentimes they'll be able to visit the homes with me as well. And then I really let them, take it from there. You can kind of see from my background, this is one of the homes that we staged up in the, not Bethany, Cedar Hills area. And so they did a wonderful job with it.
Well, and as being on the receiving end of your staging as an agent, it's pretty miraculous to see the transformation that staging can do, and the kind of furniture that you choose. What I really love is there's a conversation that happens between you and the agent or the client and says,
absolutely,
this is the style of the house. Like we did one up on Parrot Mountain in Sherwood. And that one was a 1960s home, but it absolutely was not a mid-century, right? That was kind of kind of an upper end country home, a country estate. And so the furniture was not mid-century. The furniture was really more sort of this kind of contemporary farmhouse style, which really worked beautifully in there. Do you find overall that you are doing furniture that's matching the current trends, or are you trying to match it more stylistically with the architecture of the home, or how does that work?
We do a little bit of all of it. And, the biggest thing for us, the most important thing to us is that we want every person who sees the photos of the home to come and visit it. And so we don't get super kitschy on, specific styles. And so, if we were to do a traditional home in a contemporary style, it would make people ask questions and again, talk themselves out of it. And so we go with a very neutral while giving a nod to certain styles. The Parrot Mountain one that you spoke of, it was kind of the modern farmhouse style, but it was a mid-century home. But we couldn't go super mid-century because it's on a farm. It was on what, 4 acres or 5 acres,
Yep, almost 5 acres. Yeah.
right? And so you're going to get the buyer is going to be someone that kind of loves that farmhousey style, but it did have some mid-century vibe. And so, we pay attention to all of that when we're picking the stuff for it.
Do you find that you tend to choose more neutral items or more items with color or a combination of both?
We are a high volume staging company. And so we stage, sometimes 300 homes in a year. And so we try and make sure that all of our base pieces are neutral and can work in any design aesthetic. Where we take the color is in our accessories, our pillows, our artwork, and that kind of stuff. So as far as, we won't use a bright yellow couch, because it may not beat everybody's taste. And so, but yellow and gray is a really good color combination. And still a lot of people like that. I know it was a very popular color combination a couple of years ago that is starting to fade away, but some people still really love it. And so we do bring color in. You can see a yellow pillow on the
I
couch
see it right
behind
on
me.
the couch.
So
Yes, yellow.
yeah, yellow and blue. And so we bring some of that color in small pieces so that it doesn't overwhelm people, but it still gives some color and some life to the room.
And how do you decide which rooms to stage? This is always a question that my sellers have. I know the answer to this, so
Yeah.
love for you to share some of your thoughts on that.
It's always the main spaces. Those, I always say, the rooms that mom and dad are going to use, because those are the ones buying the house, or the rooms that the people who are buying the house are going to use. If it's a young couple, just getting started, you don't need to do all of the extra bedrooms because they don't have, kids to use those extra bedrooms. But especially right now, we have a lot of people looking for home offices. And so that's absolutely something that we want to highlight. And so it starts with the conversation of what spaces would you like to see staged? Then it comes to my suggestions of here's what I think. We really try and take into consideration who the buyer is going to be. Is it a big home? Is there going to be lots of people living there? Is it single family, multifamily? Those kinds of things. And so it really is through conversation that we determine what spaces to stage.
Well, and from the real estate perspective, I love bringing in your team at really the beginning stages when we're
Yes.
talking with maybe if we have an interior designer who's going to be there, if we have a general contractor who's going to be doing some work or some color to the walls. This is really when we start that conversation of here's what it's going to look like so that you
Right.
have plenty of time to sort of get a feel for that. Because I do think that the colors and the design of the house really do play so much into sort of where we're going to go. And you're definitely an integral part of that team, like right from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate that about you, Aubrey, is getting that, that notice and knowing so that we can prepare the right plan. Oftentimes we get calls and saying, can you stage the house tomorrow? And we'll always make it happen. It's one of the things I pride myself on is we will make anything happen for anybody as long as we are able. But the more notice that we have, the better. If we can have a week or 2 weeks to know what the home looks like so we can make sure that we have the right stuff. The other thing for me is if I don't have the right thing, I'm going to go out and buy it because I would rather put that into my inventory than tell you I can't do it.
There was also, I remember at one of the houses, I think it was from your own personal collection, the shuffleboard.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
right. And I remember we had quite a few buyers from that one who were interested in actually buying your play equipment. And I was like, that is actually the stagers. But one thing that I love, and this is sort of the next question is, I actually have used you in different price points. So
Yeah.
I think that most people assume that it's only for the luxury listings, but I think the first one we ever did was actually one in North Portland, and it was in the low 400s, but it was a house that was quite unique. It was an old house, and it had bedrooms in strange places, and then it had a kind of a basement downstairs, and we really wanted to show people how we could use the space. And so, people are using stagers in all price points, not just in the luxury homes.
Right. Yeah. The statistics say, and I tend to believe it, that staging is going to be your top return on investment. If you choose to do one thing in your home. Obviously, if you're going to renovate it, there's some things, but staging will get you the most return on investment. If it's a $1,800 job or a $10,000 job, depending on the scale of the home, it will always bring you at least what you spent or more. And when we talk about that, we price deductions or concessions or that kind of thing, the more that you can get for your home, the better, right? Obviously.
Yeah,
And
it is definitely a good return on investment. And what I always look at is if you have ever been to a model home for new construction,
yeah,
there's a reason why they have it decorated and why they have it staged. It really does show so much better, and it's sort of the flagship for the whole builder.
sure.
And so if you just had that vacant, it wouldn't really pack that punch as much as you would certainly if it was vacant.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we staged no matter what the price point. We staged recently, we staged a, $120,000 one bedroom condo.
Mhm.
We've staged apartment model homes for apartments. We've staged, big 5-acre farm homes. We can do it all.
And so you said to me earlier that you this week, for example, are doing 2 to 3 stagings a day.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you have any plans to expand at this point, or do you feel like you have enough? I mean, I guess there's never really enough, but do you feel like you have enough space at this point to handle the business?
We do, yeah. And like I said, my commitment is always to do the work and never to say no to a job. So we will find a way to make it happen. I own over $1 million worth of staging inventory, and buying regularly. Obviously, right now is a little bit crazy, and supply chain is struggling in every market, not just furniture and homes. But we are always trying to buy new product, add more product. Expansion is always on my mind. We recently expanded into the Seattle market, so we are staging in Seattle. And I can't say the name of the person yet, but there is going to be an announcement coming soon. We've just hired a new client relationship and account manager. She's got some experience in the industry. She's fantastic, and she is going to revolutionize Judson Roy Home. And I think that we will be doing 3 jobs a day, every day, all year round. And so I told my
Well,
crew the other day, buckle up, it's going to be a fun ride.
I mean, and the thing that's exciting about that is you do have such a good, hardworking crew with really excellent communication. The real estate market obviously is crazy everywhere. And what's wonderful is that even as listings have been in short supply and certainly have been for many years, it's wonderful to see you as busy as you are, because if there's any sort of deficit in the industry, it's that we just don't have enough listings, but you're
Right.
certainly busy with those listings. Can you speak to, I know that you only are staging vacant homes and not homes that already have furniture in them. Can you just talk a little bit about sort of what that decision, how that decision came to be?
I should say we specialize in vacant homes. We will do occupied homes here and there. But we stay so busy on the vacant side that I don't do as great of a job on the occupied homes. And so there are people out there, you've got a great contact, and I think you'll be interviewing someone soon that does the occupied homes. And so oftentimes we will actually refer those out because, when you have a good relationship with a person that, maybe doesn't do vacant homes,
Mhm.
then we'll switch, refer back and forth. And so I think I lost track of the question, but
Just the vacant versus the occupied. And it's true. It's just one
yeah,
of the things that's just not in your wheelhouse. And really it's no different in real estate. There are things that people specialize in, and the
yeah,
things that they don't specialize in, they can just sort of give over to somebody else. I'd love to end this to ask the question that has been asked of me to ask you, which
sure.
is where do your pickers find all of their cute stuff?
Where do they find all of our cute stuff as far as like choosing for what homes, or where do we buy all of
Like,
our
where do you
goods?
buy from?
Yeah, all over the place. We have bought from Target, we have bought from Amazon, we've bought from Home Goods. I've bought from Facebook Marketplace. I try to buy the bulk of my stuff. I actually go to the Las Vegas furniture market a couple times a year, and I work directly with the manufacturers, especially when, we buy so much, we can buy in bulk, so we can buy wholesale. And so I do get most of my stuff by going to the furniture market a couple times a year. And I will say that's fun for me. I really enjoy that.
I
Being a
bet.
guy with a furniture background
Mhm.
and kind of doing the home staging is it's the furniture market. If you've never been there, because you probably haven't, because it's
Mm-mm.
wholesale only. It's closed to the public. Only, special people like me get to go. Furniture stores and designers and whatnot. It's overwhelming the first time you go. It's 5 million square feet of furniture, home decor, area rugs, artwork. It's every vendor that has probably ever sold anything shows their goods there twice a year. And
Wow.
so we get to go see the new trends, see the stuff that's coming out, and place our orders there. So it's overwhelming the first time you go. You start, I remember my very first time. I've been like, 35, 40 times to this show. I remember my first time going down there, getting to like the fifth floor, of the first building, and being like, everything looks the same to me.
Yeah.
And there's 3 buildings with like 10 to 15 floors a piece of just showrooms. It's basically like going to like 8 malls at the same time.
Well,
So
judging how popular shows on HGTV are, that sounds like a dream to many, many people. You have a lot of people that are really interested in sort of that process, and they like decoration and they like design. So I bet that actually sounds really fun to most. What
it
happens?
is.
And what I'm wondering is, what happens to pieces that you have to retire? Just ones that have just kind of, either just getting old, or they're just not they really in style anymore, or what happens to those pieces?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer that question, but let me just say one more thing back to the Vegas furniture market. We do get, you mentioned HGTV, and
Mhm.
oftentimes there are HGTV stars that do spend time down there. So I have a picture of myself with the Property Brothers. I have met them a couple of times. I've met Donny Osmond, who is a singer, but also has a furniture line. So I've met
Wow.
several, HGTV stars. I will also say I have been on HGTV in the past as well. So that's just a fun little insert that right there. The pieces that we retire, we try and do a sale once a
Mm.
year. Stuff does get used and abused and beat up, but it still has lots of life left in it. And so we do try and sell stuff off once a year. This year, we're not doing it just because, as you can imagine, the supply chain, I have to hoard everything that I have. As long as I can, until the supply chain opens back up a little bit better. Because if I sell everything, which I have done, recently I sold, something to somebody really wanted to buy something. You mentioned somebody wanted to buy the shuffleboard table. That one I wouldn't have sold, because again, that's from my personal man cave.
Yes.
But someone wanted to buy a couch a couple weeks ago, and I did sell it. And now I'm going, gosh, I wish I hadn't, because I can't get any more couches. So, but we try and do a sale annually, usually either in the winter or in the summer, and sell off the stuff that still has life in it. That maybe it's just not perfect enough to use any longer in the homes, or if it's something that we've used a bunch.
Well, you heard it here first. So not anytime soon, but once the supply chain issues resolve, right? Sale
Yes,
over at Shawns
yes.
Wilsonville, right? Staging area.
Yeah. Follow our Facebook page, follow our Instagram at Judson Roy Home. We always put it out there. We try and give plenty of notice so that it's crazy when it happens, that we roll up the door and there's usually 20 or 30 people waiting. And it's like, if you see something you want, you buy it then, because in 3 minutes it will be sold to someone else. So it's pretty crazy. It's, a full day. And I've never seen anybody be able to sell a warehouse full of furniture in 8 hours,
It's
except for one of
supermarket.
these sales.
It's supermarket sweep, but staging style.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much for chatting with us today. We have Shawn's contact information at Judson Roy Home here during this interview. If you have any staging questions at all, interested in chatting with him, please feel free to reach out. Shawn, it's always a pleasure. This has been Aubrey from Martin Family Real Estate Group, and we will be having our next educational series released next week as well. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
You too.